Welcome back to Vote 2024 with me, Camilla Tominey. Let's talk about Marine Le Pen's resurgence in France. And indeed, it looks as if her National Rally Party are going to trounce Emmanuel Macron's ruling centrist alliance. Exit polls suggest that they are winning 34% of the vote, while the left-wing New Popular Front is on second with around 29%. Mr. Macron's Together alliance is on 20.5% to 23%. They think be another poll after our election next week. Let's discuss this now with Nabila Ramdani, who's a French-Algerian journalist and author of Fixing France, How to Repair a Broken Republic. Lovely to see you this evening. Thank you very much for joining me, Nabila. What's been going on then? I mean, it does look as if Le Pen is going to surge to victory. What does that therefore mean for Emmanuel Macron, his party, and indeed his presidency?
Well, I think, undoubtedly the exit polls that we saw yesterday indicate a highly significant vote share for the National Rally. There's no doubt about it. But it's not definitive. I mean, what ultimately counts is the seat share. And we'll know more about that next Sunday. So what we need to work out at the moment is how this massive vote share will translate into seats actually won in the 577 seats at the National Assembly next Sunday. The turnout was incredibly high, almost 70%, and I imagine it will be even higher next Sunday, showing how incredibly serious these elections, these key parliamentary elections, are being taken by people in France. The percentage of the votes for the National Rally that they got yesterday represents 12 million votes, with 12 million people, which is an incredibly high number, bearing in mind that they usually get around 4 million votes at parliamentary elections. So it's literally tripling of their vote in a short period of time. And I think there was a lot of shock and indeed anger at this result. We saw a lot of people already taking to the streets in Paris after the exit polls, but I don't think it was much of a surprise, given that the National Rally has evidently been polling extremely well for a long time, not least all at the European parliamentary elections only 3 weeks ago.
And do you think that's a result of Marine Le Pen having sanitised the party a bit more, changed the name from the National Front that her father, Jean-Marie, set up in the 70s, now calling it the National Rally, obviously got Bardella front and centre of the movement as a future Prime Minister, a young guy that can relate to the Gen Zs. Has that all helped?
Well, I think, Marine Le Pen claims that she has changed the face of the party, one that is indisputably linked with the racism of the worst kind, including Islamophobia and antisemitism. I mean, the party has firm roots in Nazism. Founding members fought with the Waffen SS, and there's also a lot of nostalgia that is linked to the resentment over the loss of France's colonial empire, and not least of all in Algeria. And I think that all this legacy hasn't gone away, and there's no evidence of that legacy that has magically vanished. I think quite the opposite. We've seen, for example, during the campaign, some of the proposals of the National Rally effectively putting forward what they call a national preference for French people with French roots, going as far as proposing, for example, to abandon that Republican right of any French person born on French soil to automatically become French. They've also been suggesting that they can clamp down on certain jobs for dual nationals, and indeed banning the Islamic headscarf in all public spaces, including on the streets. And I think there's a lot of fear that if they do manage to get in a position of government, meaning that potentially Jordan Bardella, a 28-year-old with no experience of government, could end up being the Prime Minister of France, I think it's looking pretty daunting for certain sections of the French population, and therefore there is this massive call for what is called the Republican Front to try to effectively lock out the far right from power. And this comes from not only Macron's coalition, Renaissance Party, but also this new leftist coalition, the New Popular Front, calling for to be a bit savvy and to do deals at the next round of elections to try to keep the far right out, but also calling for demonstrations on the street to try and convince the moderates not to join in the surge of the far right.
Yes, Ms Ramdani, thank you very much indeed for joining me this evening. I think whatever happens in this election, it's not looking good for Emmanuel Macron. That much we can conclude. Well, let's go from France now to America. The Supreme Court has